You're in there now.
It's pressure. I don't know if that's going to be cool or not, but we can have it.
Okay, so let's jump right into this table build. The first thing obviously we're going to do here is mill our parts. This is going to be a fairly basic table construction. We're using our S4S here to surface the table aprons out of poplar. S4S stands for surface 4 sides, so this machine can cut all 4 sides of a board in a single pass. It makes very quick work of dimensioning lumber. It's a huge time saver, as you can tell. So basic setup is we're building a table that is 127 inches long by 67 inches wide. We're gonna break it into 2 tables that are identical tables. They just mirror each other. Each table will have 5 legs, and they will be wrapped around those 5 legs with these apron pieces. This will all make sense as we get into the build. So those 2 bases will get built. We'll assemble those together, and then we're gonna put a torsion box on top of those that will make for a nice flat surface. Okay, this is some of the nastiest, most just gnarly, gross wood I've ever worked with. The only thing that is keeping me motivated and moving forward with it is the fact that it's free. I mean, it is just a bug factory. At one point, through the process of milling all 12 of these legs, I've only seen one bug. He fell out here on the floor somewhere. There he is, right there. But the lumber's gross. It's not pretty. It's full of, I think it's some kind of elm. At some point, probably a cedar elm if it came from Texas. And, you know, it's just all this like freaking powder grossness. I wore the mask the whole time because I just didn't want to be breathing this stuff. And what I'm going to do is come in and roll on penetrating epoxy on all the faces. Just douse it in epoxy, lock it all in. And then might honestly put an epoxy primer on it because I'm going to paint this base. I'm just trying to make it work. And, you know, when you do things like this, ultimately you probably end up giving yourself more work and it all kind of washes. But we got a bunch of it out in the shipping container. It's the first time I've cut into it. It's garbage. I'm going to use this for this table, and I'm probably going to take the rest out and burn it and make room for some quality timber that's not full of bugs. Okay, so as I noted, this material is not great material, but it was free. It was material I got handed to me, so I decided to use it, and it worked out fine. We got it painted, and we didn't have any issues with bugs. Robert here is cutting basically kind of like a half lap. So the apron is going to sit flush with the outside of the leg, and it's just going to wrap around that leg. So this is providing a spot for that apron to wrap around, and we'll miter each apron together. This will make more sense as we get further into it, but basically it's just cutting giant rabbets around the top of the leg. Now here's doing the same thing on the ends of the apron pieces, and those are going to pocket into what we just cut on the leg, so you'll have a shoulder on that apron to kind of line things up and give it some strength, and then the end of that apron will get mitered to meet the other adjoining apron.
This is the way to do it, right?
Yeah, I would mark each one just on its own.
Yeah. And then
It all should be the same, but you're probably going to get better results if you do.
mark each piece.
Yeah.
Right. I can just use the same, just this setup, and just mark them all.
Yeah.
So as long as it's square and it's square, I know this is my endpoint.
Yeah, that should work fine. I mean, it is getting painted, so
Yeah.
you can always caulk it.
It's a good chance, though, to, you know, try and be accurate. Yeah. When we assemble it, can we do the whole thing at once, probably? Just
Yeah,
dab a
'cause we're
little
screwing it
glue and
together,
screw
yeah.
it and
Yeah.
call it good?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
we can get it assembled
Today?
today, I could put primer on it when I prime the
table base. So here you can see him cutting those miters. We got that figured out exactly where we wanted those. And you know, this is a shop table. It needs to be strong, but we don't have to make these tight, perfect joints. We can fill these if we wanted. It's getting painted, so we're not trying to put a lot of effort and time into getting this dialed in perfect.
So what I was thinking is I'm just gonna tilt this off, smear epoxy here, there, put it on, nail it on, and then just kind of work around, and then come back with screws.
Yeah, you got plenty of time with that epoxy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it. I would get it pretty thick on there.
Yeah.
So this starts to give you a good idea of how the table gets assembled. We're using epoxy to put it together. And like I said, those aprons just kind of meet up to the top of the legs and miter together, and we'll use screws to screw all that together. This is a really quick, easy way to build a table that's sturdy and strong. And it's an alternative to cutting mortise and tenons, which would take a little bit more effort and time to do. And another thing is for this particular style of veneer table, we need a flush front. So that's why we wanted to stick with just keeping everything flush. So basically you see one side of our table here coming together, and there is a cross centerpiece that supports it as well. Okay, so here's a look at what we got. Robert's doing a great job on this. Obviously, this is not going to be furniture grade work. We're not going to put the time and effort into it we would on, you know, like we would for a piece of furniture. This is for the shop, so we really want it to function well, but it doesn't have to look or be perfect. So you get a better idea of how these joints work. Basically, these skirt pieces are apron pieces, just shoulder up right here, and then they're going to miter right here. Everything gets epoxy. We put screws in it to just add the extra strength. And for the centerpiece, we just kind of did kind of like a bridle joint here. So this, you know, ideally this would be all one piece, but we didn't have a long enough board. So basically what we did was just kind of butt them together right here, and then we got a couple kind of, you know, I would call these tenons, mortise and tenon, that go all the way through. But you know, you want to have some decent joinery in there, because if you're sliding things under the table or something and you kick the leg, you don't want to pop the leg off or break it. It's not going to get a lot of abuse, but this is a giant table. You're kind of starting to see the scale of things, and I'm still a little bit uncertain as to if this is even a good idea, because obviously this is just half of it. Tomorrow we'll glue up the next one and we'll get them in position, and then we've got to start laying up plywood for a giant torsion box. I mean, a giant torsion box. So we're getting there. Half the table's done. Tomorrow we'll get the other half together. We'll get them screwed together. We'll get the leg leveler. Well, actually we got to paint it. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this, get it prepped and prime it and paint it. Hopefully do all that tomorrow. And then we can get the leg levelers on, get it all set in its position, level it all out, and start building out the torsion box that goes on top of it.
Yeah.
Want to do that one?
Yeah. And then we go, like, those are my nails.
These are the little things that go in there. See, it goes in there like that.
Yeah. And we put the nails right there, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so while I've got some help here from Judd, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Simply Safe. They've been amazing supporters of the channel. They provide a award-winning security system that monitors your home 24/7. They have professionals ready to dispatch police and send them the help whenever you need it. Now, I actually have 3 systems now. I have one in my house, one in the shop, and we have one in the Argosy camper that I recently completed a restoration on. I'm very excited to say that Robert has been able to find himself a home here in Bernie, and he moves into that this month, and Simply Safe very kindly sent him a new system for his home. He's got a really cool setup and where he's going to actually be able to possibly have a rental space on his property. So For him, having security there is a big deal. I went over to his house with him, helped him install the system. We got his home base set up, and we got an entry sensor and his motion sensors all set up on his wall. They also sent him a really awesome lock, which I have on my house, that allows you to remotely unlock and lock the door to your house. It also has a keypad that allows you to unlock your home from the keypad. It's 24/7 protection for less than $1 per day. Plus, there's no long-term contract, so you're not locked into any deals. You can cancel it whenever you feel like you might want to. And now is the perfect time for my viewers to get a SimpliSafe system, because they are offering y'all big savings with up to 40% off on new orders. So for any of y'all who've been thinking about protecting your home and your family with security, now is the best time to act. Just head on over to simplisafe.com/Andy Rawls to get your savings. Now remember, there is no safe like SimpliSafe. Okay, so with the table base done, primed and painted in place, we've kind of semi-leveled it out. We're gonna go ahead and put the first layer of 1/2-inch plywood down. This plywood is going to be the skins for our torsion box. But we want to go ahead and put this layer down and screw it to the table so we have kind of a decent flat work surface to build the torsion box on, because obviously the torsion box is the size of the table. It's fairly large and we need a space to build it. So we're going to utilize the table for that. Now I missed getting the footage on how we cut out all these slots for this torsion box. This is 1/2-inch plywood. We are going at 7-inch grids, 7x7s, and I basically stacked this plywood up on edge and wrote a CNC program and cut them all in the CNC. Did like 20 parts at once, did them all at once. So I had the advantage of having the CNC, and I took advantage of it because it made quick work of this. And basically, we're going to build this grid out. We're going to build 2 of these grids, and I'm intentionally building the grids at 60x60 because you'll see here in a little bit on the video, we're going to actually flatten these grids down and surface them on the CNC, which is a 60x60 table. Now the reason we're using a torsion box is because, for one, they're super stiff. It's the best way to get a lightweight, flat surface. And once you put the skins on the outside of these ribs, flat box basically. And with the adjustment in the levels, the leg levelers, we can really dial in the flatness with the torsion box over the span of that 127 inches. Whereas just using a flat piece of plywood, it just isn't as accurate as a torsion box. So since we're doing veneer work on this, if I'm going to go to the trouble to make this table and set up this quality of a setup for veneer, I want to make sure it's just dead flat. Whatever we put in this veneer table, I want it to come out nice and flat, and I don't want there to be any issues with the table in doing that. We've also got a project coming up soon, which is a large conference table. One of the reasons why we built this entire veneer press system, and it is going to be a torsion box setup as well for the tabletop that we're going to veneer a sunburst pattern on. So this is good practice for us to kind of get that dialed in, figure out the best way to build this, most efficient way to build it. And ultimately, this actually worked really well, the 7x7s and using the CNC. And here you can see we basically placed these 2 grids. These are 60x60 on the CNC and ran, I think here we're running an 1/8-inch pass, so that just levels all those joints out. Then we flipped them over and set it to cut. I think we finished it 2 7/8 thick. So we got 2 grid patterns that are 60x60 at exactly 2 7/8 tall. So we know we're dialed in, they're the exact same, they're perfectly flat. It's just a huge advantage to having this piece of equipment. I might as well use it and get everything dialed in perfect. Oh, microphone.
It's like someone trying to learn to play the flute.
Leveling out these grids, then 1/2-inch plywood. Okay, so we got the 2 main frames here laid up. I've got them clamped on right onto the edge of the table base, so they kind of go square to the table, everything lines up. The next step here is to splice them together. So we're going to do that first in the middle by splicing on pieces here to here, screwing them, and then they're half lapped, and we'll drop another one of these ribs right down the middle. Rob's working on getting those parts all taken care of and cut up right now. And then once we get that middle piece in, we'll come back and splice on to the end. So we already have pieces here that are dadoed. And those will make our end caps. So they'll sit on here kind of like so, and just basically mirror the other side. And then once we get all that done, we're going to level it with the straight edge, make sure it's sitting nice and flat, and then we can skin one side. So as we kind of work on connecting the two large boxes together, I'm just checking as I add pieces that where I'm flat along the length of it. You know, I don't want this to get off. We have leveled out that table, so we're on a really flat surface to begin with, but having the straight edge there helps just make sure every time we add a piece in and connect that we're lined up and flat. Double check it first.
No, I trust you.
Did you put glue in there?
Yeah.
Oh. I wouldn't trust me that much. Things are falling.
Perfect.
Hey, man.
Trying your hand out with a weld up there?
Yeah, I gotta weld up a base.
What the heck is this thing?
Torsion box.
A what box?
Torsion box. It makes a perfect flat table surface.
Oh.
I would like to see them going a little further, but I think we're pretty good.
Okay, I don't think they're going to go any further.
No. Just hit it really hard. It's like,
So it's something you use to build a flat table?
yeah, well, we're going to use it to do veneer work on. Like, we'll build a veneer table on this. The outside pieces were also cut on the CNC. Those were dadoed, so they just pop into each one of those ribs. You can see it hangs long on the end, but we just marked it and cut it to length and then filled in the little gaps with little pieces. Mallet?
Yeah. Brute force, right?
Report, no. Last piece. So from this point forward, we've been using the Festool track saw to level the table, and we actually found out that track saw is not as straight and flat as we thought. So I have a laser. We set the laser up to strike a line above the table, and we just went around and measured it with a stare rule, and it worked. It was amazing how well this worked. We were able to go to each leg, thread it, adjust it a little bit until every spot that we checked with that laser was dead on the number we were measuring. And I mean, I don't know how we could get any flatter than what we got it using that method. And with it dialed in flat, now Robert gets the not so fun task of putting a ton of screws in the top. We put probably over 500 screws between the tooth skins and getting them screwed down.
I'm not done with that yet.
I know, I'm just admiring it. Need some water.
You're pulling it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Looks like you missed one screw. That's it? No, there's got to be more than one. There's two. Pretty good. For a roofer, that'd be really good.
We could leave it like this and make like storage.
Yeah. Kind of like the apothecary thing. concrete. Let's grab it.
3 inches. 3 inches. Pretty amazing.
Pretty cool. What's the final word?
It's perfect, man.
It's perfect?
Perfect. I don't know what it'll be like in 3 months, but I don't see why it would change unless we get an earthquake.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier. We don't really get earthquakes here.
Right. I think we'll be all right.
So after we flipped it, I tested it with the laser just to make sure everything's staying true, and it was dead on perfect. So we flipped it over, got the other half-inch skins on. You can tell here we put dominoes, so where those skins come together, they're going to stay pretty much level and well connected. And again, Robert had the great task of putting all these screws in. He did a great job, but it was a lot. We used little trim screws that countersink themselves, so it was pretty easy job, but it's just a lot of them to do. And the reason for that is I feel like is if you just want to get equal pressure pushed all, I don't want any point in there where it might be raised up or anything. So we just loaded it up with screws. Okay, so we've got the torsion box all screwed together after probably, I don't know, 700, 800 screws. It's all good to go. We're going to put the ABS plastic on next. So this gets contact cemented on. This is what will help create a seal between the aluminum frame and basically this table. We'll lay down that sheet of MDF, put this on that, and then that way we can roll on our contact cement. And I'm using this stuff here, which was recommended by the veneer guys. And I'm just crossing my fingers that we can get it. You know, if I'm doing the math right, this should have enough square foot coverage. But we've just been debating whether or not it will, and I think it will. So we're going to go for it.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. We have more than enough.
All right, flip it, hold it really high. Just don't let it touch.
I think we need to come my way a little bit.
Okay. See, now we're not. I'm good here now. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
That looks good. Oh, touched it. Came off though.
This is actually the first time I've ever done contact cement, and it's a little bit ridiculous because we didn't have any rubber rollers to roll it out with. So Robert's over here with a pin roller from our kitchen. I'm using a board and a paintbrush, our paint roller. We're just kind of using what we got laying around the shop to spread and push this plastic down, and it all worked out just fine. It actually laid down really well. I got the idea of using and in the end, it all laid down really well, and it worked good. And basically, we just came back and trimmed off the excess. They supply you with this ABS plastic sheet, and they give you an inch overall oversized to what you're building your table to, and you just trim it off. And I say they, Vacuum Press is the company who's providing the aluminum frame and making this a vacuum table, which I'm going to show you a little bit about that here in a sec. All right, so we've got the table all done, put together. A lot of work has gone into that. I've got the aluminum frame on, all the bag set up as well. Now this whole setup, everything from the black ABS plastic up, is something you order as a kit from Vacuum Press, and they'll send you, you can get it in 3 different sizes, I believe. This is the largest size. It'll press 60 by 120. So they send everything you need to build out the rest of the table and make it into a veneer table. I didn't show that process of assembling all this. I actually filmed a instructional video for them, which is probably going to be on their website. So if you want to learn about that, you can go check that out. But before we leave, I might as well show you how this works, and it's pretty cool. So you've got the aluminum frame. It comes with all the hardware. You've got these hold downs here that pull it down. The reason you need those is because, like I mentioned earlier in the video, we're creating a seal. So this whole top just flips open, and you got the strap here to hold it. Pretty cool, and it allows really easy access to your table. So loading parts into this is so simple. A big change from when we used to have to slide them on the floor in the bag. Any size part you need can be put on here. You just put it in different spots. If you have 4 or 5 parts, you could put them all in here, close the lid, close that aluminum frame down, and start your pump. This is the grid board right here. We made this. This does not come with the setup. You basically get 1/4 inch MDF or particle board and run an 1/8 inch wide by 1/8 inch deep groove. The groove allows air to flow through the table, so when it's pressing, it has channels for that air to move through. You can see right here is a hole. That is the access that goes down through the table to the pump. So when it's sucking air out, it's coming out through this hole, and these channels are allowing that air to flow. The table itself seals with this gasket, so it has a really nice kind of ribbed gasket all around, high quality, and when you close it down, the table will seal. That's why we use this ABS plastic, so it's something that it's not porous in any way, so that you get a good seal with that gasket on that plastic. That's basically it. From here on out, we'll have a really good setup to veneer on. Now, one last thing before we shut it down. I know this is a large table and it's useless to sit here like it is now if you're not veneering. So we're working on turning this into a large, we're already using it as an assembly table, storage, work table. It's already been used in that manner. Right now it's set up for veneer, but this is what we got, some pink insulation, like foam insulation, and it kind of straddles the frame here. It sits a little bit higher than the frame, but it's soft. It won't hurt the bag. We can put all that foam in there. And then I've got 3 pieces of 1/2 inch ply here that we dominoed, and these can basically assemble together and create a flat worktop surface. Now, we're kind of on the prototype beginning phase of this. There's a lot we can do to improve it. The way it is now, the foam sits a little bit proud of the aluminum, so that the plywood's sitting up above. So it's, you know, it's not going to be a flat work surface. It's a shame to have such a nice, expensive torsion box, and by the time you get up to this level, it's pretty wavy top. But I think we can make it work. You know, I was thinking there's got to be some hardware where you can come off this T-track maybe and clip the top down. I don't know. I'd love to get some comments from you guys if you have any suggestions on how we could effectively get a flat work surface on top of this aluminum frame. I think we're at a good start with this foam, and for the meantime it's working, and we can make use of this table because, you know, we're only veneering maybe 10-15% of the time. The rest of the time it's just a table sitting here, so we don't want to waste the real estate in the shop, and it is a really nice large work surface. So as time goes on, we're going to improve that, and eventually this will be a really nice workbench most of the time, and then we can just disassemble it and then use it for veneer work. Okay, so that is an absolute game changer. It's awesome to have. It was a ton of work to build, not cheap at all, but I think it's worth it. We're starting to do a lot more veneer work. This is a great example. This is a lectern we're finishing up. That's all the client's wood that we milled up, made shop veneer out of, and you can just see, I mean, it really is a cool look. You can match things up. You can really control how the grain goes on a piece of furniture. So a lot of people shun veneer, but veneer can really be a game changer if it's done properly. And I'm excited. I don't know if you guys, I mean, our old veneering process was a mess. The pump didn't work very well. It was very difficult to get the pieces in the bag. So this is going to greatly increase our efficiency and our quality of the work we're doing. So I'm pumped about this. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. As always, we'll see you next time.